My friend was on supernanny. They don't actually do anything. It's just acting. He and his brother are still exactly the same as they were before. Today on r/AskReddit, people who were on show like supernanny, world's strictest parents, or scared straight, what was the experience like? And what was the aftermath? One of my friends in grad school was on nanny 911 as a kid, maybe around 5 years old. There were a lot of kids in her family, and one of the biggest problems the nanny had with their household was safety. She baby-proofed the entire house and lectured them on safety precautions they have to take in their lives to ensure that the children wouldn't get hurt. She even gave them all helmets to wear whenever they rode bikes or four-wheelers. After she left, a lot of the safety precautions went out of the window, and later my friend told me that they still had the helmets, but they were all sitting in a dusty corner. I remember that episode. I don't understand parents who don't make their kids wear helmets. It's been an hour. I guess those people were not real. Give them time, Desi. Maybe their parents haven't gone to bed yet. There was a family in my high school who were on supernanny. The oldest was a friend of mine and said that nothing changed at all. So real people. Fake results. Like 3 years ago, I lived in a big 5-bedroom house with 4 other friends in college. The house was in an episode of supernanny. We found out because our nice neighbor literally gave us a signed headshot from Joe Frost as a gift out of the blue. He literally told us, "I think y'all would like this more than me and get a kick out of it." It made our week, and we found the episode online and watched it. I asked about the family to the neighbor as our house was rented out and owned by a property company. He told me after the show the parents fought all the time, lost all of their money due to 2008 crisis, and lost the house to foreclosure. The picture stayed on our mantle for 3 years, and I thought about that family every time. It was all nice and wholesome, and then it crashed and burned at the end. I lived in India. Once in my school, when I was in 6th grade, these foreign kids pop up with a bunch of cameramen and stuff. Speculation went wild. We thought our terrible principal probably wanted to create a cool image for the school and was creating some kind of weird advertisement. Anyway, years later I saw a YouTube clip by complete chance of world's strictest parents. It was my school and those exact kids. They had come to an Indian family whose children went to my school. The episode was a lot of drama. The parents were kind of obnoxious, at least for the episode. However, the last I heard on asking a few friends was that those parents were fine and their children are doing reasonably well. Not sure about the foreign kids who came. What a small world. Seems like ages ago. I want the chicken nugget boy to answer so bad. King Curtis. I didn't go on, but some classmates went on supernanny or nanny 911. Can't remember which. They lived rather close to my friend, so I went over to his place to watch the filming and such. The nanny stayed in their neighbor's house across the street, and the kids' behavior didn't improve for a very long after the nanny left. From what I remember, they were trouble all through school. I lost contact with all of them during middle school. Edit. Just remembered. The parents ended up divorcing not too long after the show. I wouldn't imagine a nanny swooping in and putting a band-aid on the problem would fix anything like you said. If children are misbehaving, it's on the parents to tweak their parenting style to fix the problem. I was on Scared Straight and my episode never even aired because they only select a very small amount of footage to make it look a lot worse than it actually is. Most prisoners were pretty nice. In 8th grade our class took a field trip to the county's jail and courthouse. A few of the people locked up just flipped us off through the one-way glass and I think one mooned us. Apparently it never happened because the teacher was shocked, but we thought it was the epitome of comedy. It's not prison, just a jail, but most people there seemed pretty chill for the most part. I had a friend on World's Strictest Parents. She was approached by a producer late one night at a McDonald's because she was 15, drunk, and wearing a stolen police hat. Apparently the producers hang around looking for kids there a lot. Anyway, she did her parents swap, was moderately wild, came back and decided she wanted to be a chef. I don't think she finished at culinary school. She had a baby at 19 and is a great mom to 2 kids now. How is the producer doing now? Great father of 2? She was approached by a producer late one night at a McDonald's because she was 15, drunk, and wearing a stolen police hat. Apparently the producers hang around looking for kids there a lot. Calling Chris Hansen. My brother went to school with a kid from the Scared Straight show. The Comb My Chest Hair kid, if you have seen the show. He said that the kid used to get messed with after the show aired, but now lives a pretty normal life and stays out of trouble as far as he can tell. So I would say that the show works, I guess, lol. I don't know if this counts, but I was on an episode of Made on MTV, if anyone remembers that show. It was my senior year of high school, so about 7 years ago. People gave me crap about it forever and still do. I was made into a screamo singer. The experience is interesting to say the least. The money and flight/trip to New York City though at 17 years old made the whole embarrassment worth it. Plus I work in the broadcast business now, so it really opened up a lot of doors and showed me a career I love. Seeing kids now that were in my shoes, so fascinated by entertainment media, makes me so genuinely happy. If anyone is interested, I'll tell more or answer questions. Not sure if that's the kind of show you're looking for. Oh, I loved Made. I thought that was a really positive show. Not like the supernanny. That deserves its own thread. A coworker was featured on Supernanny. They had a pretty good experience filming and were so excited for their show to air that they hosted a watch party. I'm sure you can imagine what's next. The way the show was edited made the parents look so bad, like neglectful bad, and made the kids, who were pretty wild, look even worse. It ended up being a pretty awkward watch party. I mean, had they seen Supernanny before the watch party? Because I haven't seen a single episode of it where the parents come across as awesome, amazing people. Oh man, I'm cringing just reading this. I was on Supernanny. My siblings and I were out of control kids and my parents frankly didn't know what to do. I liked being in front of the camera for the most parts. It's like a mini time capsule I sometimes watch every once in a while and witness how cringe I was. Nanny Jojo set up this reward chart for when we were good. Heck, once they even filmed me in timeout, haha. So far this is the first potential real first-hand account in this thread from what I've seen. If you can say, what kind of NDA did you have to sign? That may give us an insight into why there are so few personal stories about this topic. My friend's family was on Nanny 911. They said most of it was staged and the nanny didn't actually have any effect on the family. Didn't go on the show, but went Theo my county's Scared Straight program as a young teen. The experience was kind of traumatic. I was the youngest person in the group, and, well, I never got in trouble like that again, aside from a speeding ticket at 18. The freedom to make my own choices is of great value to me, hence the rebellious years, and prison is the exact opposite of what I want out of life. I'm 21 and doing quite well for myself and future self. Anyone that isn't affected by that program is a liar, or a lost cause. So you credit the program with changing your path. Did you have any negative impacts from the trauma of it? Friend of mine worked on Nanny 911 in Make. Nothing on that show happened unless the producers opt it. They would come up with scenarios and plot points to film. You don't just shoot TV shows like that and hope that something magical happens. They created every issue. Reality TV is not real. Edit. The camera crew who worked on Nanny 911 also worked on other shows like Real Housewives of New York, Kitchen Nightmares, and Hell's Kitchen. Film business is a very small world. American reality TV is like that. Look at Gordon Ramsay's program about saving restaurants. Those first British seasons were so good. Then we got the over-edited and simplified US version. Made him a lot of cash. But man was bummed out by him ruining an interesting program. Edit. What I especially hate in US reality TV is the manipulation they do in post. The storyline is the same every damn time and that's simply impossible. Also the reactions. Who cries after seeing their boss's restaurant done up? I'd like to contribute. Hopefully someone sees this. My brother was on a show called Violent Children. Desperate parents, and honestly they were brilliant. I wasn't part of this whole experience because I was in university at the time. But my father and my brother both were in this show and the show staff were honestly brilliant. Here in the UK, especially Wales where my family lives. Mental health is not really a thing the poor have access to, and my family are definitely working class. This show gave my brother and my father access to mental health care they would have never have been able to access themselves, and made quite a large difference in both their lives. They continued to support my family for almost a year after filming with offers of more mental health help, and both my father and my brother are happier people today because of this. One thing I will say is the only reason we were featured on this show was out of pure desperation. There was basically no other way that my father could imagine getting help, given he'd spent almost 8 years fighting with the NHS to get my brother psychological help, all to basically no avail. My family were made into entertainment for the masses so that we could access something fairly basic. Something about the whole experience doesn't sit right with me at all. Happy to answer any further questions. One of the couples on the Super Nanny show got recognized and reported to the cops by their neighbors. I can't remember the name of the family, just that they had a few kids and that the older one had sometimes missed school to watch the younger ones. If it's the one I think it is, then that was a rough one. And good on the neighbors. I remember seeing that episode and being horrified because the oldest sibling was definitely being abused, and instead of calling CPS and getting actual help, the nanny just talked to the parents and tried to convince them to lighten up on the oldest and take some responsibility. Like the kid was literally shaking and looked like they might pass out the whole episode. I can't think of the couple's name. Was that the one where the two girls, Moria and her sister, were forced to homeschool themselves to look after the kids? Super Nanny had them reported to CPS herself, and a lot of viewers reported after that episode aired, and they were forced to put them in regular school from CPS. I know the super healthy family that was on the episode of Wife Swap with the chicken nugget kid. His dad ran a fitness gym and did boot camp with my parents. After that wife swap episode, their family did not change at all. My mom said that we had them at our house for dinner one time and the son ate all of the food he could get because his parents never let him have the kind of food we served at their house. They're doing really well now. The son is going to a really good college and the daughter is a star track athlete. Edit. I don't know much about the chicken nugget kid himself, but last I heard, has exactly the same as well. The daughter of the super healthy family says he started a GoFundMe so he could buy a guitar. When I was about 6, my sister and I were on a show similar to Super Nanny. They straight up told us what to do so they could get all the footage, and literally none of the solutions the nanny came with lasted more than a few days. 100% staged and acted. Patiently waiting for Curtis from that one episode of Wife Swap to say SOMETHING*. What about Extreme Makeover, Home Editing? Were those people's actual houses, and did they ever keep the house? There's a house they built about 5 minutes from me. I knew a girl who went to school with one of the kids in the family. She told me they couldn't afford to maintain the house and property and just sold it. It looks extremely out of place for the neighborhood and is off a busy road. It's also looking directly at a trailer park. I had a friend who was on the first season of Nanny 911. According to her, there really wasn't anything wrong with the kids behavior wise, but there were 7 young girls in the family and 3 were triplets. The craziness was dramatized for the most part, and the real reason why her parents decided to be on the show was for the paycheck, so they could build an addition on the smallish house they had. Their father passed away very recently due to lung cancer from 911. He was NYPD and worked overnights, so they ran that house very strict. All the kids turned out great, and they're all beautiful and unique young women now. Something similar. I dated a girl who ended up on Drive. Phil. I was in the Navy at the time and was in Hawaii or doing circles off the coast of Mexico. When I returned, our apartment was gone. My stuff sold off. Girlfriend nowhere to be found. Turns out while I was haze grey and underway, she broke into houses to feed an addiction to drugs, OD, in a public toilet, and gotten arrested for aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. Now mind you, I was out to sea for the span of a month. I knew she had a past with drugs and I would take her to methadone clinics and AA meetings, so I wasn't completely blindsided. Well, getting back to the reality TV show. Somehow Dr. Phil got involved, and she was given a choice. Go to jail or go on drive. Phil. I really hate Dr. Phil. However, her segment was real. From the psycho mother to the not so bright girlfriend. To end the story, she ended up going to a rehab center requested by Drive Phil to avoid jail time. Last I heard, she was good for a few years and relapsed again. I would also like to know how the houses from the Move That Bus show are doing. Granted, they were only made in a week. A lot of them end up losing their house because of the increased tax rate from the improvements. They actually had to start making the houses smaller and more realistic because so many of them were losing the houses. My uncle's family was featured on Extreme Home Makeover due to a rare condition my cousin has. They got a brand new house, car, and mostly paid vacation. My grandparents drove out to the big revealing. They stood in the crowd of actors shouting "Move That Bus" for 3 to 4 hours during countless reshoots. While waiting on the host to show up, they ended up trading the car due to it being impossible to insure for at least 6 months because of the new model. They installed an entire fish tank as a wall in my cousin's room, which ended up leaking and causing water damage into almost the entire house, including basement. The crazy home temperature control cost a fortune, which compounded with everything else they had dealt with in a 6-month span caused them to just sell the house in the end. Not really relevant, but along in the same theme of parents and kids being told to overact and stuff. When I was 13, me and my parents were interviewed for a BBC show called Living with the Enemy for an episode where the parents were to spend time with the band Cradle of Filth because their child was a fan and they supposedly disapproved. My parents weren't being outraged enough, and it was suggested they should be more upset about their precious small child liking such a band, because it would make better television. My parents just didn't have it in them, because they really weren't that bothered, because I was a good kid. The family who ended up on the program were massively overdramatic and the kid was 18, so probably not the same impact as it would have been with me, an oh so impressionable little girl. Had my family cooperated. I also still have the interview tape over 20 years later as they sent it to us, along with a bunch of signed band merch for me. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more dank curated content from Crosspostable Reddit.